What's up, guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Cello, the fashion fairy. So if you're stopping by for the first time, you're welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome back. So if you want to learn how I made this, please keep watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you. See you in my tutorial. I'm gonna make something great. Hey soul fairies, so this is the second part of this video. If you're yet to watch the first part where I draft this, please go back, watch it, and then join us. So this is the pattern that I'm working with, and this is the back. So I've folded my fabric over. I folded it once, and I made sure the pattern paper aligned properly on this. You want to do this. Remember, this is a shirt dress, so the back will not be having any zipper allowance. So I'm placing everything together to make sure that I have enough by the sides so I can add my allowances. So for this, I added 1.5 inches by the side, and I did this all the way down. Remember, I said when I was drafting this that I just stopped where the paper stopped because I wanted to extend it on the fabric, and I will be doing that. So I looked at the hip and I felt it had a bit of excess, so I drew a straight line to cut out that excess at that point so that it looks a bit better, it fits better. So I adjusted this on both the front and the back as well. Remember that when we drafted this, we drafted the front and back together. So, and this is me cutting out the back first. I'll be showing you how to do the front. So I added 1.5 inches all the way down. And the entire length of this is solely dependent on where you want it to stop, but I wanted it to stop a bit below the knee, so I measured from the shoulder all the way to the desired length. So by the shoulder, I added 1/2 inch for joining it at that point. I already added 1/2 inch to the armhole and the neckline when I was drafting the pattern. So here I decided to add 2 inches extra, and I wanted to use this as my sewing allowance to hem it at that point. So guys, the next step is to transfer your darts, and I always do this using my my tracing wheel. I had a bit of a brain fart right there. So I'm transferring the dart lines, and I will be using a pencil to make the marks a bit visible, so that when I'm joining my darts, it will be easier for me to do this. I don't know if you can see it through the camera, but using a tracing wheel actually makes it a lot better because you can see it on the fabric clearly. So my back is done and is ready to get to my sewing machine to sew in the dart. So I'll set this aside and go over to the front. So this is me ironing it. Make sure you iron your fabric. The fabric I used for this was polish. So this is my pattern right here, and while I was trying to place it, it cut. So if this happens to you, don't be alarmed. Just use your cello tape and attach it back, and this is what it looks like. So I've already placed it on my fabric, and I'm going to join it like so. So the spreading is totally up to you. Know how much you want to spread, and then you do it accordingly. I used about 3/4 inch. In fact, I eyeballed it, to be honest. And for the center front, I'm going to be adding 1/2 inch all the way, and I'm going to be using this to do my I'm going to be putting my bottom flap on it. I'm going to be using it to turn it. So by the side, I added exactly what I added to the front at this point. And a tip, guys, when you're doing this front, I suggest you make it a bit longer than the back, because at the end of when I was done sewing it, I noticed that it was short, I think about ½ inch, because probably I dragged it up a lot. So make sure you leave more room so that when you are done, you can use the back to adjust it. So this is me drawing it all the way to my desired length, and I made sure I had the allowance I needed at this point. So the ½ inch that I need at this point, I drew it all the way down. Like I said earlier, I'll be using it to be attaching the button flap when I'm done. So because I didn't want to cut everything together. So make sure you have you measure accordingly to make sure you don't have more than you need. So this is me cutting it off, and I'll show you what to do next. So at this point, I just took my scissors and I notched the beginning and the end of our spread, and this would enable me know exactly where to stop. So if I'm pleating it like so, I would know exactly where to stop. So I advise that you do this as well. Placing my pattern paper on this, I measured what I slashed, and I got 5 inches. So it means that I will be, after my pleats, I should have exactly 5 inches that I need to pleat. So measuring it like so, it must be 5 inches. So just a quick one. I decided to place my back on this to make sure that I had enough length, and surprisingly at this point I lost a bit of length. So what I did eventually was that I still gathered 5 inches, but because I added 2 more inches to the length, I was able to still get my desired length. But I suggest that you add more to the front when you're cutting it so you don't lose anything. So I'm going to be measuring the circumference of the armhole that I'm working with, and I'm going to be cutting the sleeve. But before I do this, I'll be cutting the button overlap. And to do this, I'm going to fold my fabric into 2, and this is what I'm working with. I folded this into 2, and you want to make sure that you have at least 2 inches, but I ended up using 2.5 inches because I felt it was sufficient for me. So I measured 2.5 inches all the way down, and I'll go in with my iron to iron this down, and I'll be using this for my button overlap. So going in with my tape, I'll be measuring the exact length of my gown, and this is what I have here. You want to measure from the neckline of the front all the way to the length of the gown, and whatever I got, I measured as the length, and I cut this out accordingly. So I'm going to be using my scissors to cut this open so that I will have 2 pieces of this. Folding my fabric into 2. Remember the armhole circumference that we measured earlier? This is where we're going to be using it. So going in with my tape, I measured 5 inches all the way from the top, made a mark, and then I drew in a lazy S. So before I did this, I measured to make sure I had the circumference that I needed, which was the circumference of the armhole. So going in, I got the measurement that I needed, drew it in, and then I used my free hand to draw in the curve that I needed. If you're still confused on how to make a sleeve, you can refer to my previous videos on how I explained this extensively. So marking the length of the sleeve, my desired length, I measured this round sleeve of where it stopped, and I added 1 inch, and I connected it all the way to the top. Because this is a shirt, it's not supposed to be fitted, so you can literally get away with it. So but make sure it is not too big. So placing it again on another fabric that I put on fold, I cut this out, making it 2 pieces. Going in with my scissors, I trimmed out the front part of my sleeve, and I also did same for the other side as well. So going in with my pins, I'm going to try to achieve some pleats at this point. Remember, I made notches earlier, so I'm going to make sure my pleats start from the notch and ends on the other side of the notch. So going in with my tape, I measured and I didn't have up to 5 inches. So I opened it up again and I pleated it again to make sure I had exactly 5 inches as I needed. Just take your time to do this, guys. You can get it. So just make sure you measure accordingly so that you do not lose anything while you're at it. So I finally got it. Yay! So I'm going in with my tape again. I measured the entire length, and that was when I noticed I had a bit of shortage at this point. So what I did was I cut it off and I made it straight. So like I said, when you're doing yours, make sure you put in enough excess so that you cut it out accordingly. So I went in with my ruler and I cut out the other side just to make sure I had a straight line at that point. I also did the same to the other side of the front as well, and I placed them side by side to make sure I aligned them properly. So going over to my button overlap, we're going to be using gum stay for this. It's a bit hard and it has a gummy part, so I'm going to be placing this on the part that has the gum, and I'm going to be ironing this accordingly. So I already went to my sewing machine to sew in my darts for the back. You can see that this looks perfectly done because I traced it out. And here's what my front looks like. I also ran a stitch to hold in and I removed the pins. So this is what I have so far for the front, and I'll now be using my button overlap to turn the front and finish this up, guys. So once I'm done with that, I'm also going to turn this join this at the sleeve with my 1/2 inch that I added earlier. So this is what the button overlap looks like, and I'm going to be joining this off camera with 1/2 inch. I'll join it with 1/2 inch and I will turn it with 1/2 inch, and this is what it looks like. I've already gone ahead to attach one sleeve and I joined it at the shoulder before I did this, obviously. So I'll just quickly show you how I attach the sleeve. I notched the middle part of this. I folded it into two like this and I notched it. And then I made sure that the curve would be in front. So I flipped it over and I placed the notched part on the shoulder part. And then going in with my pins, I attached it all the way to the other side. You can totally do this without your pins, but like I said, I always pin. So I pinned this part first and I took it all the way to the other side. Using 1/2 inch, I'm going to be sewing this down. For the hem of the sleeve, I'm going to be using hemming gum to put this down. This is what the hemming gum looks like, and I'll be using my iron to attach it properly. So this is what it looks like. I'll also be joining the sides as well. So guys, this is the end result of our shirt dress. Of course, I've not put in buttons, which I'm going to do later, and I'm also going to be putting buttonholes as well. You can see that everything is relaxed. If you've not watched a video of how to make a proper collar, kindly refer to my previous video to learn this. Can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye.